Howdy y'all, and welcome back to the farm. Today we're doing something that I've been looking forward to do for a long time. I've got a problem with my Toyota 4Runner. It's not the way it runs. It's not the way it looks. It has nothing to do with the car itself. It has everything to do with me. And my problem is, I'm a slob. I keep a lot of stuff in the back of this truck. This is my work truck, my farm truck, takes my kids to all my activities, and at the same time it's my fun truck. I want to keep stuff in the truck that keeps the truck fun for me. But it ends up all over the place. And when I put the seats down, whatever it is I do, I've always got a bunch of junk back here. So today, we're gonna solve that with a really cool storage system that I bought from a company called Rago Fabrication. Let's go check it out. So, these are the kits that I bought from Rago Fabrication. Rago Fabrication makes a lot of really cool stuff. It's typically made to order, made just for you here in the USA. And I mean, it's great. It's stuff you wouldn't think of. So today what we're gonna be doing is installing the MSP. As you can see, here's all the hardware we're gonna need. And here are the panels. These panels will end up covering the back windows on the inside and giving us plenty of attachment points to attach whatever we want on the inside of the truck. See, these racks come in a pair and they go over the back windows. One on the passenger side, one on the driver's side. The other thing we got is this series of shelves. These shelves actually hang between the two racks to make a shelf across the middle. So we're gonna have plenty of places to put all kinds of stuff. Stuff we can tie up, stuff we can put up on the shelf. We can even hang things, have places to hang, you know, shirts, coats, things like that. I'm really excited about this. I really hope this solves our problems. So let's get into pre-installation, start installing some of the hanging hardware onto these panels before we get into the car and start pulling out some of the bracketry. Now, before you go putting this inside your car, what you can do is a fair amount of pre-assembly outside your vehicle. So the first thing we want to do is attach the top bracket to the rack. So you're going to take the piece that has the holes to the rear of the vehicle and put it behind the rack like this. They're going to take two of these stainless steel 5mm Allen head bolts, drop them through. Then on the other side, we're going to put a washer and a 10mm nut. Now, we don't have to tighten all of these down. As you can see, a lot of these holes are slotted. This allows us to adjust the fit once it's inside the vehicle. So for now, we'll just tighten those down until they're just to the nylon, and we'll do that again for the other hole. Now that we have that top plate on, we can put this plate that's going to actually attach the rack to the hook, the existing hook hole in the top of the vehicle. And we're going to do the same thing here, where we take each one of these holes, we drop in a bolt with a washer on the head side, another washer, and then a 10mm nut. We're going to do that 4 times, one for each of the set of slotted holes. Now, when I've got all 4 of these in, I'm actually going to tighten this one down. I've already installed the rack on the passenger side. I'm working on the driver's side right now. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this top hook down because I already know how it's going to line up. Okay, so with all those bolts in there, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these top bolts using a 10mm wrench on the nut side and a 5mm Allen head on the other side. I'm also going to try to line up my bolts the best that I can, just so that it looks nice when it's installed in the vehicle. All right, perfect. All the hardware this kit comes from is stainless steel, and all the nuts that they supply are nylon locking nuts. So Rago did a great job of supplying you with top grade hardware to make sure this will stand up to the test of time. So now this is all pre-assembled, we can get in the car, start removing some of the hardware we need for the factory mounting points, and get our spacers installed. All right, let's go do it. Now, to install this, what we're gonna do is actually remove this 10mm bolt, this 10mm bolt, and that Phillips head bolt over there. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my cordless ratchet driver. Do not use this to install the hardware. I learned that the hard way when I snapped off a bolt on the other side with this thing. All right, let's get this thing out. All right, that's one. That's two. I told you what, if I haven't convinced you how cool of a tool this is by now, well, it's pretty cool. And the third one is this Phillips head bolt right here. Now that those bolts are out of the way, what we're going to do is get our spacers installed. The little spacer goes here in the back of the vehicle, and the big spacer goes in the front. All you gotta do to get those in is to get the little bolt head started, and then twist it in just as tightly as you can. The bolt for mounting the panel is already in there, so just be cautious of that you're not losing that bolt when you're putting this in. All right, and this one goes in the back. Give that a squeeze. Bingo. Now it's time for us to get our panel in place. We're gonna remove these two bolts here. Catch that washer that comes with it. And now we're gonna lift this thing into place and use those same bolts through those slotted holes about 1/2 inch from the bottom of the rack. Now this thing is kind of heavy, so it can be a little cumbersome to install yourself. So if you need some help, grab a friend, grab 2 friends, grab 3 friends and get them to do it for you. But if you don't have any friends, you'll end up doing this yourself. All right, great. I'm just gonna get those finger tight for the time being so that we can line up that hole in the top. So now that those 2 bolts are in, I'm gonna line up this top hole and get this bolt, this factory bolt, started back up in this hole. Now I don't wanna over tighten this, but I am gonna put it in there tight enough to that holds this hook flat to the roof. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not going to use any power tools for this part just because I snapped off a bolt on the other side earlier. All right, so now that's in place. Now I just want to adjust it to get it to where I want. On this side, it's in the middle there on the bottom. It's kind of right there where that bolt is on top. Good. So I'm just going to go ahead and now I'm going to tighten these the rest of the way in. Now I'll tighten them on this side and then on this side just so that the bolts don't roll the whole assembly back and forth. All right, cool. That's tight. It's tight. All right, now like what I said, I'm gonna put my screwdriver up behind this. I'm gonna put the box end on that bolt, on that nut, and then I'm gonna try to line it up to where the bolt is about in the middle. All right, that's nice and tight. Now this one's a little harder. So what I'm actually gonna do is take the open end and slide it up in there, and then tighten it down. All right, cool. All right, so now those 2 are tightened in. The last thing to do is tighten the top. Now, like I said earlier, I don't want to over tighten this. So I'm just gonna grab that bolt and get it to where it no longer, I don't know. I'm just gonna get it to about a little tighter than hand tight. But I don't want to wrench on it because like I said, I don't want to break it off. And if I break it off on camera, y'all get to see me extract another bolt. All right, cool. That's good enough. All right, great. So that's the 2 side panels in. Now, we gotta focus on the rack that goes between them. Let's get to it. So now, we're down to the rack. This rack is actually gonna span between the 2 panels that we put over either window. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of pre-assembly to do here. We can actually put this entire rack together prior to hanging it off the rack via these brackets. There's 1 bracket at each of the 4 corners, so we don't have to attach those yet. But what we will do is we're gonna go ahead and put together all these pieces. These 2 long pieces, these make up the back, or the head, like kind of like the headache bar, so things aren't rolling into the passenger seats. These make up the back, and this panel with the R on it goes in the middle. These 2 strips go along the front to keep the front together, and then we're going to put bolts in each of the holes. You'll put bolts in here on those brackets, here to hold the panels together, and all along the back, matching up with all these slotted holes to hold the headache bar to the shelf. Now there's actually 2 long bolts that go all the way through both of these panels and the back panel. So you're gonna have to dig those out of here. But everything else is gonna be the exact same bolt. Once again, you've got a 5mm Allen head, a bunch of washers, and a bunch of nylon lock nuts. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing put together, and then I'll get back with y'all once it's all assembled. And there you have it. After you get all the bolts tightened up, it's all together, it's all one piece, and it's pretty solid. One thing to keep in mind, when you're on the panels, it was obvious which side the bolt head and which side the nut should be on, because on the panels, the exposed side, the side that you're going to see, and the side that you're going to use are the same. So for instance, wherever you put a bolt head would be where you would see the bolt head, and also would be where you were putting things on the panel. On this one, you're more likely to see the bottom of the panel from the back, especially if you put the shelf higher up. But you can see that means you're going to see the nuts and not the bolt heads. I opted to put the bolt heads on top anyway. I don't want the nuts messing with my ability to pull things in and out of this shelf. I did put the nuts in the back and exposed bolt heads in the front here, just because I thought that would look nicer from the back. But you are going to see these nuts from inside the vehicle. Let's get this thing put in the car. All right, so we got the shelf all put together over there. Now we're back in the car. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hang these brackets first. These brackets go through these holes on the MSP panel on the wall, and their slotted holes match up with the slotted holes on the corners of the shelf over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it pretty close to the top, and then not nearly as far forward as you'd think. I don't want anybody to be reaching back and hit their head on it, and I also want to reserve some of these panels for things that we can reach from the front. So I'm going to go ahead and start mine right there, and then the slotted holes are 12.5 inches apart on the shelf, so my other hole is going to be right there. So I'm going to go ahead and throw these things in, and we'll get them tightened down, and then after we get these attached on this side and the other side, we'll drop the shelf in. All right. Sweet, those are in fast. We'll do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll bring you back for putting in the shelf. Now that we've got the brackets in all four corners, we can go ahead and take our shelf that we assembled out of the car and put it into place. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna come from the front of the car back, especially if you have brackets like I have up in the top. That way you can slide this top section, well, you can slide the skinnier front section, or I guess skinnier back section, under the brackets and not have to worry about either the lip of your hatch or the bracket up there. Once you've kind of got it resting on those brackets, you can see what it's going to look like at the end. Give it a final look, make sure everything looks the way you want it to, and then go ahead and drop in 3 bolts on each of the corners in the 3 slotted holes that match up with the bracket and the shelf. Well, oh, that's turn. There you have it. Install's all finished up. We got all the bolts tightened up inside. The panels and the shelf are both in place. Let's see the big reveal. Now, believe it or not, I didn't take anything out. This is all the same stuff that was in here previously. So that backpack used to have the toe straps, rope, a blanket in it, just so I could have a place to keep all those things I would carry every day. Plus, I got some of my tools tied up with gear ties, and then a couple other things, like my baseball glove that I always carry around for my son and I to play catch, some ear muffs for ear protection. Right now I'm using these things. They're called gear ties. They're really cool, and if you've got a system like this, something like this can be really helpful. They also make quick release latches that line up with the little holes that are drilled into each of these panels, so that you can hang things underneath, hang things to the side, and have a quick way to get them in and out. You can also hang things like fire extinguishers, first aid pouches. I've actually got a MOLLE pouch right here. It's I keep medical supplies in this. I don't know where I would hang this yet, but for now, I just have it thrown up on top so we can get this out of the way. All right, so that's it. I really like this install. This was one of the things I've been on my wish list for a long time for this truck, just because as someone who uses their truck for work, for fun, for camping, for all the I just use this. Yeah, it's not just a daily driver for me. It ends up carrying all the stuff that I need for all the things I'm going to. And a rack like this is super helpful. So if you've got a 4th gen, You're looking for a rack like this, Rago Solutions has you covered. Like I said before, made in America, made to order. I mean, it took me 2 months to get this, but it's because they made this for my car. And when it got here, the packaging, the way everything was put together, they even threw in some old-fashioned root beer candy for me while I'm installing it. And yeah, I couldn't be more happy. This was a great install, and I'm really glad I got it done. So let me know in the comments what you think of it. If you're looking for this, I'm going to put a link in the description to Rago Fabrications, and also a link specifically to the two products, the MSP panels and the shelf that goes between them. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. This was a lot of fun. Hope to see y'all next time. Bye now.